So, the discussion today is about what we're doing in the garden during fall. That's the time. With the vegetable thing, well, it's going to move back and forth. You know, March going in through to June, we're going to do the warm season stuff and the watermelons. Now we should be well engaged in the process of growing the cool season vegetables. And so I'm always getting the question, what are cool season vegetables? The list is actually longer than the warm season vegetables, just by number. So if you want to write this down, it's mastergardeners.org/picks/cool HTML, and that will give you this list. So just to run down the list quickly, I'm sure you'll find something on here that you love to eat, and it's time to get it in now. Artichokes, which are perennial, one of the best perennial vegetables we have here. Perennial means any crop that lives for more than 3 years, right? More than 2 years, actually. But asparagus, another excellent perennial crop. Beets, hate them. Okay, good. Well, it's like that, but and really, in the Garden of Eden, when the serpent was blamed for a lot of trouble, and God threw Adam and Eve out and kicked the serpent out on his little legless belly, everywhere his last feet struck earth before he lost legs permanently on the way out of the garden, a beet sprung up. I'm sure. Broccoli. This is an excellent crop. Broccoli is a marvelous crop. Not only is it so good for you, you'll live long, happy lives. I mean, I eat broccoli at least 4 times a week year-round because I raise it here in Fremont. It's a place for this crop. Broccoli doesn't go away quickly. Like a lot of plants, you know, you put it in, it crops once it's done. Broccoli will continue if you're cutting it hard to resprout and resprout and resprout. Just make sure you cut hard and feed it again. The first head you get will be the nice big, you know, seed package head. If you cut the plant by 50% when you harvest, don't just like pick off the head. Take a knife or a pruning shear and cut that poor thing right in half, leaving only the lower half of the leaves. And if you feed a little at that time, when it comes back, you'll come back with maybe a trio of smaller heads, bigger than shaving brushes, if you remember those, you know. And then if you pick those, I usually harvest the second crop of broccoli by grabbing the entire stalk and snapping downwards. So it literally snaps off the side of the stem. Eventually, when you keep this up, by the time I'm on about the 10th or 11th cutting of broccoli off the same plant, they'll often start sending suckers up from the roots. And I periodically even pull the suckers up, root them in the greenhouse, and put them out without sowing more seed if there was no disease, you know. It will hold on for quite a while. Romanesco, which is an Italian type of broccoli, is like that too. It goes for several years. You know, the whole trick though is cut hard, have no mercy. Okay, the broccoli is a good one. I'm you know, over 60 these days. Just finished a full physical with all the inspections, and they couldn't find anything wrong with me except, Bill, you talk too much and you eat too much. You know, that was the only thing they come up with. All right, I attribute it to broccoli. Brussels sprouts, another one, which is a very good crop for this area. The Brussels sprouts are long-lived, take a long time to mature. They won't be ready until next spring. Watch out for the woolly little gray cabbage aphids. Anybody who grows cabbage knows that little woolly aphid.
What do you do about aphids?
Aphids, you know, if like with the Brussels sprouts, it'll totally mess up your Brussels sprout crop if you let it go. Timing is the key, and so if you're putting Brussels sprouts in now, fall is setting in on us. It's getting cooler all the time. Eventually, the multiplication and the spread of the aphids is going to come down to almost zero as we reach like New Year's. It's just too cold. They don't do anything. They just hang there. So if you clean the plants up before we get into deep winter, you'll probably come out into the next spring with no aphids. So it's really key that right now on cabbage plants, new broccoli plants, new Brussels sprout plants, you know, inspect if you don't want to just spray, and if you can't find any aphids in there, then don't worry about it. I've seen a few times when it happens that you don't get any, but if you can find any at all, my suggestion is use either horticultural oil, which is usually a paraffin-based mineral oil, or you can use, there are products sold, or you can just use canola oil in water, will smother aphids. Soap in water, preferably use insecticidal soap in the bottle with the mixing instructions, because soap's also an herbicide if you mix it wrong. Okay, so insecticidal soap or horticultural oils. My suggestion on aphids. Water works to an extent, but with the Brussels sprout, I do recommend you sanitize that puppy before winter sets in. I mean, nuke it so there's no aphids, because it's nothing worse than having what looks like a big, beautiful stalk of sprouts in spring, opening it up and finding the entire inside loaded with those stupid aphids. And on the sprouts, you can't get them out. With broccoli, you can avoid them by constant cutting. Don't let the broccoli linger, and if you're quick and keep your broccoli coming in, I never have to spray with broccoli because I harvest hard, and they just can't get a foothold. If I get a couple of curds here or there that had some in it, I pitch those and eat the rest. Cabbage, usually not as susceptible because you can peel off the outside leaves on the cabbage, and that's where the aphids were, But in any case, be careful of those. And so cabbage, again, I have cabbage that was seeded back in August that looks like in the next 30 days I'll be getting heads. So yeah, some of this fall gardening stuff, think ahead. Like I said, I was playing God. I yanked out a few things that I had there. I guess it was some pole beans. I put in cabbages and lettuce and endive for the fall early on. Those crops are coming on right now. And you continue a wave starting in August of working with your fall plants, probably ceasing your planting by about November, Thanksgiving. It's a good timing, usually quit. By then, the timing of the day is so short, and the temperatures are getting so cool that there isn't any point in working directly out in the outside environment at that point. Hold off for new plantings until you get to about early February again, and then start all over again. Peas that are put in October can sometimes be right before Christmas. If the weather was right, if the weather was harsher, well, they're ripe after Christmas sometime. But you can sow peas, for instance, successively. I'm getting ahead of myself. Carrots, get them in now, though, before the soil cools down, because they need warm soil to germinate. They will hold in the garden very nicely across the winters. Even if they don't mature, they'll mature in spring. Carrots that were almost ripe in the fall can also be kept in the ground all winter if you don't have room in the refrigerator. Just make sure you yank them out before the days get too long in spring, because they'll go to flower. You get a big woody core. So when it warms up, you get those old carrots out of the ground. So, cauliflower, this area of the country was famous for raising this crop back when it was gladiolas, apricots, cabbages here, and what the local farmers called cauliflower. If you're from Fremont long enough, you know it was cauliflower. Okay. Anyway, chard. And bright lights is a good one. I just throw that one out because it's so pretty. You can use it like a flower. It's all different colors. Garlic. This is garlic capital. Gilroy, and so on. Garlic raises marvelous around here. There's so many different kinds of this now. Garlic's become a heirloom, vogue crop to raise. You got stiff necks, red garlics, all kind. I still think the plain old California white raises as good around here as any of them.
You're saying the garlic to have the seedlings already, right?
No, garlic, you just take a bulb.
Oh, you can just put it straight in.
You break the bulb apart into cloves.
Yeah.
And you put the cloves in the ground with the blunt end down, pointed end up. Rules on planting anything when you don't have instructions is if your seed is that big, like a clove of garlic, the amount of dirt you put over the top is the same as the size of the seed. So you got a 1/4 inch seed, put it a 1/4 inch under, 1/8 inch seed, 1/8 inch under, and so on. This generally works. It's a good rule of thumb. Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah, but garlic now, absolutely. Get your garlic in between now and Thanksgiving. You could have had it in already. Because they are bulbs, they don't require the germination temperatures that seeds do, and so they can go in pretty late. If you miss Thanksgiving, just keep planting it across the winter till you finally get it, or try to plant it until you get it in there. I would stop planting garlic by February. After that, the days are going to start getting too long on you, and you will get tiny bulbs. Garlic needs short days to green and long days to bulb. And so if you put it in on the other end, you're going to get greens, not bulbs. So that's why you put it in now. The longer time you have for the bulb or the green to grow large before the day lengthens, the bigger the bulb. Kohlrabi works this time of year too. Another one of the cole crops. In general, all the cole crops. Lettuce. Lettuce is king, queen, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I grow so much lettuce. I think probably annual, the number of lettuce crops I raise in this area, we're probably 30, 40 different separate crops of lettuce that I will put out through the year because we eat it constantly, and it's, I mean, there's nothing to it, you know, it's like, lettuce, it's gone. And so we go through an awful lot of it. It's not like a pumpkin where it may take you a while to eat the thing, you know. And as the temperatures begin to drop, lettuce will stay out in the field here all winter long, but you can speed the growth of greens like lettuce up, or endive, or chard, or anything by using floating row covers. Anybody know this stuff? Remay, as one of the Agribon, I guess is what this is. That's a brand name. You use stuff like this for two reasons. One, it will create a small greenhouse effect underneath it so that your temperatures underneath the cover will be slightly warmer than the stuff outside of the cover. This comes in all sorts of different grades. What we have here is the lightest grade you can get. There are grades all the way out to the point that they're almost opaque. Those would be used if you have hibiscus and you want to wrap them from the 50-year freeze, you know. You could use the really heavy stuff. Somewhere halfway in between, there are products that work maybe a little better for frost protection. This one I purchased specifically for pest protection. I have terrible troubles with the birds eating my lettuce. If I put a whole row of lettuce out, the little goldfinches and the sparrows and the chickadees would go right down the row and just they'd eat everything. There'll be nothing but stumps, especially in the winter. They also eat my weeds. And look around the garden, I see they've eaten the annual bluegrass and everything else that's out there. But they love lettuce, and so I cover it. Peas too, they eat my peas. And so I just got done covering my peas with this stuff. It's very lightweight. It can lay directly on the plants if you choose to. Oftentimes what I do is when I go in and prune my apple trees or prune my other plants, I'll take the branches, and they're green and supple, I'll bend them into croquet hoops, big arches, and stick them into the ground on both ends. Sometimes I'll take some old 4x4s or something and lay them on either side of the row to kind of hold things together. And then I'll throw this over the top and use the wooden clothespins to hold everything together. And you can bundle it at the end, twist it, and put a clothespin on it, and so on. You make these cool little greenhouses. You can use old storm windows over the top of 4x4s. That works really well too. Or 4x6s or whatever old chunky piece of something you got. Straw bales even I used to use with old storm windows over the top.